So I know some of you did not do all of the questions, but I still want you all to watch the whole video, even if you did not do these specific questions, because you are going to use this as a good review for your test that is going to be for tomorrow. So let's start with 1 through 3. 1 says plot 4, 5 on the coordinate grid. So I'm going to stop there and plot 4, 5. So I'm going to start at 0, go over 4, up 5. 5 is right between 4 and 6. Then it says reflect it over the y-axis. So if we're here, here's my y-axis. I need to actually go over this y-axis. So instead of going 5 or 4 over to the right, I'm going to go over 4 to the left, because again, we want our graphs to look the same on both sides. So my new point now is -4, 5. Remember, this one was 4, 5. Number 2 says plot -9, 2. So I'm going to go start at 0, go to the left 9 to -9, and go up 2 and make my point. So this was -9, 2. And I want to reflect that point over the x-axis. So here's my x-axis, and I want to actually cross it. So instead of going up 2, I'm going to start at the x-axis and go down 2. And again, we want it to be on the same line so that they look the same. So my new point is at -9, -2. Number 3, plot 3, -4. So start at 0, go to the right 3, and then go down 4. So this was 3, -4. Then it says reflect it over the y-axis. So here's my y right here. I need to cross that y-axis. So instead of going 3 over, I'm going to start at the y-axis and go 3 over to the left instead. So my new point is at -3, -4. And my graph looks the same on both sides, so we know we did it correctly. All right. Number 4. Actually, this is still number 3. It says when we reflect a point over the y-axis, what do you notice about the relationship between the coordinates of the x and y values? So when you reflect over the y-axis, your y stays the same, but your x changes to opposite. And those came straight from the notes on your board. Then, when you reflect, and this is supposed to say when you reflect over the x-axis, what do you notice? When you reflect over the x-axis, now the x stays the same, but the y changes to the opposite. Okay, the next page was this graph with all these different places on it. I'm going to zoom out so we can see the questions. It says Lily drew a map of certain locations in relation to her home. Here's home. Identify the coordinates of her home is the first part of question 4. So her home, we're starting at 0. We're not going over any, so we know the first number is 0, but we do know we have to go up 5. So her coordinates is 0, 5. And how would you describe the relationship between the location of her home and the gym? So here's home. Here's the gym. All that happened was home was reflected over x-axis because the gym was 0, -5. So it was the same distance from 0 on both sides of our graph. So we know it was just reflected. Moving on. You can zoom in a little bit now. Number 5, write the ordered pair for point D. Here's point D. We had to go over 1 and up 5 to get to D. Explain how to find the quadrant point X is located in. Here's X, and we know this quadrant is quadrant 2 because it's in the left and it's up, and that's quadrant 2. If P was reflected over the y-axis, so let's find P. Here's P. If P was reflected over the y-axis, here's y, what would the coordinates be? So if we reflected this point right here over the y-axis, it would have to be over here. So instead of going 3 over to the left, we're going to start at the y-axis and go 3 over to the right to make it look the same. So the new point would be there, and those coordinates would be 3, 4. So the new coordinate would be 3, 4. The next one. Write the letter name for the ordered pair that is a reflection of point -5, 2 over the x-axis. So you've got to actually find -5, 2, and that would be there. If I reflected -5, 2, where my pointer is right now, what letter would it now be over the x-axis? So instead of moving 2 up along the x, I'm going to move 2 down, which puts me at point or letter B right here. That's its reflection. Okay, the next question's pretty much just the same. Write the letter name for the ordered pair that is a reflection of point 3, 4 over the y-axis. So again, you actually have to find where 3, 4 would be. So that's 3 over and 4 up. Okay, so there's 3, 4. If I reflected that point over the y-axis, what letter would I then be at? So here's my y. Instead of going 3 over to the right where my point is, I'm going to go 3 over to the left, and that puts me at P. Okay, last one for this graph. Write the letter name for the point that is at 4, -2. So if I go over 4 and down 2, that puts me at S. Number 11.